axe grinding and the grouping up game. There's no need for that.
Fair. So is it going to be all of us? Because I anticipated it was just you and I, but I guess I wouldn't mind having everybody join you, and that wouldn't at all.
Well, if you're going to have a Charles Manson like cult leader, it'd only be right that some of the cult members would be joining in on the presentment, right? I mean, that's sensible.
I suppose. So actually, I just kind of wanted to go back into what we were talking about privately the other day in terms of your concept of the legal system. So,
right. So where do you want to start with that?
I wanted to start with your understanding of what the state is allowed and not allowed to do. Like, for instance, do you pay taxes?
Yeah, again, this is all on record. I'm not going to get into direct questions as if we're at court. The man or woman on the land is not subject to tax code beyond their status as a trustee or withholding agent of United States Corporation.
So what does that,
again, United States
organization.
So what does that mean?
All right,
though?
so
like, does that mean that legally you're not required to pay taxes?
Again, it's about status and standing. United States citizen, you can have a citizenship, but when you characterize yourself as a citizen, puts you in a different standing as far as I'm concerned. This is outlined in the U.S. Code, protected class and privileged class. American national, in quotes, would be considered more of a protected class, where the law is there to uphold their rights. The privileged class are folks who opt into contractually a body politic and a social security system. It's a corporate endeavor.
All right. So a citizen is part of a corporate endeavor. And then what was the other phrase that you used? The American politic?
The American national, which is their terminology. I don't like to be pigeonholed and bound and latched to other folks' conceptualization of what man and woman on the land is. Right. But I'm saying in their system, the way I understand it, they put it forth as at least two jurisdictions or two ideas of what a being is. The same way they'll outline a natural person versus a legal person. One is a legal entity. You could argue a corporate entity, a fictitious entity. We use it to do corporate business with screens and transactions and ledgers. And then there's the natural beingness, right? The person in the sense of the body, separate from the body politic.
Okay, so just for my audience sake, because we are streaming on my end as well. So you are Paul Enslaved, yes, and you are someone who you believe that the legal system is not being portrayed accurately to the average American, and you teach the ways that you understand on your YouTube show every day, which is about not only, the American justice system, but also about God and liberty. Is that accurate?
It's somewhat. I mean, the law comes out of the idea of philosophy, which is a love of knowledge and wisdom. So in order to do law, quote unquote, properly, you'd have to be an honorable, good faith, godly, righteous, virtuous being. That's the whole point of the Constitution, is we have rights from God, right? So at the moment that the legal society or legal policy interferes with our rights from God, it becomes null and void. Now, the way they get around that is through contracting, right?
Okay.
That's just my understanding of it.
So you're saying at some point, the United States government started imposing laws that were beyond that infringed on the God-given rights of everybody. And they circumvented that issue by making it contractual, making it a contractual agreement. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I won't necessarily try to pinpoint what I believe to be a dynamic in consciousness and awareness. It may start at the bottom or the top, so to speak. I'm not saying it's necessarily...
Do you believe that contract is your birth certificate in America?
Yeah, it would seem to be. The evidence shows that there's essentially a entity that is created on the books in order to do certain business in certain venue. The all caps name, right? This is as old as the hills at this point. They want to claim it's Sobsit mumbo jumbo. This goes back, from what I understand, thousands of years to trading souls. What's written about in the scripture. This is capitis diminutio maxima. They've diminished the capacity of man and woman made in the image of the Most High down to some corporatized entity, so that they could take rulership over our body with joinder to a political or corporate entity. And then they use policy and code to regulate our beingness. Whether we know it or not, we're in contract to what seems to be, some have argued, I guess, the God of this world as an archetypal spiritual sort of idea. Right? But this apparently is in us before it's around us. So it's an aspect of our beingness, I guess.
Okay. So the people who do not, so babies can't really sign contracts, right? Like you don't have the ability to consent at the day that you're birthed, do you?
Well, obviously not. You're not of the age of reason, and these understandings have gone back way before the legal society that a being has to be of age of reason. You could be 40 years old and still not be age of reason and be sensible and use common sense.
If a baby is incapable of consenting to a contract, how would a contract, aka a birth certificate, get around anything if all of those contracts would be void?
Because the parental figures at that point have become witnesses to that event, and they've essentially subjected their property and the proper name of their being, their offspring, to this system. So they become witnesses, and we're back to the scripture, throwing their children into the fires of Baal.
So
this is all the same conceptualization. Yes, it's the parents who know not who and what they are, what God is, what rights are, what the law is, who've subjected their own progeny, which is property as far as the law sees it. Your progeny is your property. That's why you have a proper name. So you've subjected your given and family name and that lineage to this corporate endeavor for privileges, for Social Security, for benefits from the U.S. corporation.
So if I were educated, as you say, in the law, and I decided to have my child outside of a hospital and not sign a birth certificate, would that child therefore be like immune to to certain laws within the United States, such as like paying taxes, having a driver's license?
Conceptually, yes. Practically, no, because again, common practice starts to become the common law. You got a whole bunch of folks who intergenerationally have been lied to and misled and indoctrinated. You wake up one day and it doesn't even matter what the formality in the system or the etymology says. The majority of folks are going to whip you back into the place that they think is normality. So conceptually, yes. Practically, no, because the majority of folks around you believe that policy, statute, and code is the law. It's only given the force of law under the consent of the governed. That is the Bill of Rights and Declaration of Independence. It's all there.
So if conceptually, yes, it's like that's your opinion that that's how the law functions, but practically, no. Are you saying that if some person were to not have a birth certificate and then they were to not pay taxes and then to drive without a driver's license and get pulled over, that they would lose in a court of law?
Again, you're presuming that those local municipal courts are courts of law. They're courts of statute, policy, and code. They're administrative courts. I put this on record with Colorado State Court. There's dual jurisdiction. Most of those are private venues. They're subject to private statute, policy, and code. They are essentially a localized overthrow of United States corporation initial foundational principles, right? So this is why I said earlier, you can't pinpoint where this starts and ends. The whole U.S. code and U.S. corporation original intent was uphold rights and became a service provisions corporation at some point, right? Trying to incorporate the idea of public safety into upholding rights and protecting the individual's property. So we have a conflict of interest here at some point.
So if these courts, though, right, if these courts are courts of statute and, as you say, not courts of law anymore, but they still have the
Why would a being present there at all? Why is there a presupposition that a being is required to present at administrative court?
Are you asking how summons work?
Where's the delegation of authority? If there's no valid claimant on the other side that a loss, injury, or harm has occurred or a debt is not owed, where's the presumption that a bunch of state actors who are not men and women, not sovereigns, based on the definition of the court of record put forth, so they have no power, the people have the power. They can only do judgment on folks in and of their society. So where's the presumption that a man or woman of the people has to present themselves, aka summon to appear in the all caps persona? Where's the presumption that man or woman bodily has to present at a corporately a corporate endeavor, administrative court, not subject to the law of the land, not under the Constitution, or at best occupying a dual jurisdiction, in which case, to retain the common law jurisdiction and constitutional jurisdiction, there have to be a man or a woman on both sides. We don't have that. Look at all the charging instruments. It says the state of versus. That could be argued a fraudulent instrument. That it could be argued that all of these modern day localized courts and state of court events are fraudulent charging instruments. Okay? Because there's not a man or a woman on the other side. So when you're inside of a corporate endeavor and a corporate venue, somehow or another entities can start making claims and complaints. So now you have a state of versus Lauren de Laguna. One is supposed to be a man or a woman. The problem is on paper, it's another corporate entity. So you have two corporate entities on paper and a woman showing up believing that the body was summoned when there's nothing on that paper indicating that there's two corporate entities there. This is a violation of proper process and procedure of law from the beginning of time.
So are you
it's
saying
fraud.
Are you saying that the courts are currently operating under fraud?
It could potentially be viewed that way because the participants have not been given full disclosure verbally of what's going on. Many of the participants, you could argue, aren't quite sure what's going on.
If all of the courts are operating under fraud and all of the
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Don't do the if then and try to get gotchas. I said it could be argued that. I'm not arguing that.
So they're not,
because I argue that no, it's not a yes or no. It's a potential. It could be argued as that because some of us have the knowledge, some of us have the understanding, some of us have gotten it on record. The rest do not know who and what they are, where they are, what's going on, and they're claiming to understand because they've been duped and deluded. Even many of the participants at the court don't know completely what's going on.
But even like judges would you
mean administrators or magistrates? God is the judge.
Okay. Even if administrators or magistrates and there is a difference between a magistrate and a judge, which is why I find this like an odd. Okay, but let's just call them magistrates. But so
you can't have a judge without proper judgment. See, the beingness comes before the position in the world. So you can argue many administrators and magistrates cannot judge for themselves and discern for themselves what they're a part of and what's going on. Have you seen the last 4 years? So to claim someone's a judge who has no discernment or judgment would be one's foolishness and appeal to false authority and emotion, a cornerstone of cognitive dissonance. That's what we're living in here. It's called cognitive dissonance if you want to break it all down to one terminology. We have two worlds going on where folks are claiming two simultaneous things are happening at once that can't exist simultaneously. You can't have rights and be free and be kept safe. Yet you got a bunch of tards running around saying, I'm an American, I got my rights, and I'm going to be kept safe. That's the antithesis of republicanism and American idealism. Just so everyone knows, it's also a cornerstone of fascism, just so everyone knows.
So just to be clear, when judges summon people, they are operating under, or sorry, when a magistrate summons someone, is this operating under fraud when they summon the person. And you keep talking about this capital letter entity. Have you heard other people attempt to use that argument in court? And have you ever heard it work in court?
Work is like, again, a lot of this stuff is open to interpretation because I've had folks tell me that dismissals are not a win. I'm pretty sure you said that at one point. So if you got folks who have been dismissed right and left because they're challenging jurisdiction and they're calling attention to the charging instruments and the foundational proper process and procedure of law and how we establish grievances and settle claims, they start to become aware that maybe you become aware that you really have no duty and obligation to be here today. You have no duty and obligation to defend against a code, statute, or policy. Where's the wrongdoer? Where's the person who's been wronged? What is the wrongdoing? What is the crime, right? Crime is synonymous with wrongdoing. Wrongdoing is synonymous with loss, injury, or harm, or not paying a debt. There's no way to circumvent that, as much as they try, right? But again, the reason it's technically not fraud is because it's all done with paperwork and contract, and the majority of folks who show up relinquish their rights and sign the papers and say, yes, I understand. They believe they've done wrong, and they think code is law.
Okay. Can you show me any examples of a case being dismissed due to that argument?
I could show you better than that. I could show you Supreme Court ruling from whenever it was, 50 years ago. Whenever it was, the time is not relevant, where the judge, as you say, lays out that there has been a huge, what would seem to be conspiracy afoot, and that it would seem the majority of citizens have been tricked into believing that a lot of the legal procedures and systems are actually law. I could look that up for you, pull that up. That's better than all of it. That a judge, as you say, of the highest court there to regulate them, not man and woman. The Supreme Court is not our highest law or lawmakers or keepers in the land. It's U.S. corporations for them to govern them, to stop taking our fucking rights, which they don't stop doing locally and statewide, if nothing else.
Can I share my screen with you? Okay. Have you seen this case before?
So we're really pulling up Darrell Brooks?
Yeah, we are pulling up Darrell Brooks. What do you think?
No, we're not. We're not.
Of course we are.
Because we're not going to do red herring straw man argument where we compare everything I'm saying to some tard who drove a car into a group of people and then turned around and said he wasn't subject to law and order. That's ridiculous. It's red herring straw man central. And I'm not even going to entertain it here, Miss Laguna. You're a professional and you're a member of legal counsel. You've passed the bar, and I would think you would know better than that.
Okay, but there are other. It's
yeah. Pull up a case where somebody violated a code, aka broke a code, aka did no loss, injury, or harm, and actually stood a position that was sensible and contractually sound, and then got dismissed or told the debt was discharged.
Sure.
Don't bring up somebody who violated universal law, caused loss, injury, and harm, then turned around with a mask on and tried to claim he was a sobsit, in quotes.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
So
okay.
the media says.
Yeah, that's like, see, what you don't either you do understand and you're trying to discredit me and what we do, which is weird. I don't know why you do that. Or you don't understand that case was put forth to completely skew the argument. That's why it was covered and pushed. And you just latched right onto the most ridiculous propagandist talking point. So I'm not going to accept that.
So
that's far from evidence. That's an indictment on your character, I would suspect. So you're trying to discredit me completely. You're not interested in learning about what I'm saying. You're not interested in substantiating your argument or arguing against my argument. You're here to completely do a hit piece and discredit me. That's why you made me Charles Manson, isn't it?
Here's another. No, the Charles Manson was because it was lore from the time.
It's lore that you and others made up. It's not actual lore that goes on here. It's lore that you made up, and it's not lawful. Okay.
Anyway,
deflection, obfuscation. You're going to be a great legal counsel at some point.
I am presenting my screen again for a different court case.
Chase Allen.
Okay. So I've seen enough, and I'm going to get copyrighted on that because I'm pretty sure it's A&E. The bottom line is you're presenting me like people who are incompetent and incapable, barely able to speak, or just completely twisted and skewed. And you're trying to claim that it's evidence. Hey, I got like a dozen people in my chat who can come up and verify and testify to their firsthand results. Why do we need to pull up third-hand propagandist pieces?
Well,
Doesn't seem to be productive here. I could just bring up actual folks who do what I do, like myself, and we could just talk about our results and firsthand testimony rather than bringing all this other sensationalized garbage into the mix. It only muddies the waters. It doesn't create clarity.
I mean, Chase Allen might be a good one to go over.
The difference between your somewhat anecdotal cases is I wasn't there to see why the judge dismissed.
Okay, so you're already presuming that all of us are outright bad faith and lying. So what's the point of having the conversation if you're not going to exhibit equity and trust?
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I need to see firsthand.
You need to see court-recorded taping to take somebody's testimony of what they said, how the administrator responded, and what the case concluded as.
If you could provide me with court records for these people, that would be one thing.
Okay.
But just
would you like to go to my court records? I'm sure you're like really good at looking them up. You have links to the legal system. Why don't you just pull up my Colorado state court case where the administrator confirmed on record all courts on this land confer over dual jurisdiction, common law, constitutional, administrative, corporate, contract law. I have it from his mouth.
Why don't you? Okay, I don't know what.
Why don't I go and do all the work to substantiate a claim I'm living that I already have many times because you are in doubt of it? No, you do the investigation. You do the work. You put the pieces together. Stop being procrastinating, lazy, and unreconciled and unresolved. And then claiming I'm a cult leader and a fraud on top of it. Maybe that's you.
I mean, I don't have a cult following.
Yeah, because you're not interesting, you're not entertaining, you're not well informed, you're not particularly good conversationalist. You really have little to no value other than that you're at sometimes a pretty face.
Oh, well, thank
I'm sure
you.
you'll take that as a compliment, right? Yeah, there you go. You're so vain and narcissistic. You think I just complimented you saying that you were an empty shell and vapid.
Mm.
So let's just get down to it, right? Like, as pretty of a doll as you might be, that doesn't translate at court with someone of judgment and discernment, nor does it really translate here beyond a certain level. So let's get to the facts. Let's get to what the record has shown. Let's get to the dozens of Supreme Court cases where your gods, all the inauthentic corporate males who had to put on a dress and go up high to let you all, the rest of you, know how life works. Let's pull all that up. I got We Are Change right here. Is that a bad source? Is that like a discredited source?
Go ahead and pull up any sources that you have. I'd love to bring the case that you just mentioned about the dual jurisdiction.
But see, then when I do it, you're going to say you need all 300 pages of the court case so you could like look it over with your extreme laser-like focus, and then you can interpret what actually happened there. If I pull up all the bottom line synopsis and summaries, you, like all the other legal clowns, are going to turn around, I bet, and say, send me all 500 pages of that debate.
300 pages or 500 pages? And furthermore,
I don't know. The point is I have like dozens of just concise, succinct summarizations of all the court cases that really just boil down to what common sense would indicate, but that's not too common, nor is the common law or common ethic at this point. We have a common practice, and we know the common practice is fascista. It's comunista. It's collectivista.
You're saying the common practice is.
Do you like when I speak Latin, the language, that's romance language? Does that excite you at all when I say comunista?
So you're saying
collectivista.
You're saying that the current order is fascist, communist, what happened?
Absolutely. Let's go to Mussolini's definition of fascism, the merger of state and corporate powers. Would you argue we don't have that?
So, well, there is.
Yeah, be careful how you answer this, because now you pass the bar and you might have to go join with the fascista. So be careful how you answer. You don't want to get out of line.
So the difference between like what you're trying to imply with communist socialism is when the state literally takes control of all private business entity.
That's what's happened, ma'am. All of private property has been reduced to registration with numbers and licensing and chain of title to where everything's registered to the state of, including your vehicle and your house and the land under it. And it's attached to a banknote, and you're all in slavery and debt. You don't own nothing. The state of has the claim on all your property that you're taxed in order to possess. You don't own it. You just upkeep it and maintain it. They have the chain of title and ownership over all of it.
My title definitely has my name on it for my car.
Right, but you titled it a motor vehicle because it was an automobile in its original standing and status. You went and gave it another title, whether you know it or not. You titled it a motor vehicle, putting it in their jurisdiction. And you also registered it to the state of, giving them the total control and property rights.
So do you
corporate entity.
So do you not register your car?
You record your property. You don't register it. Register, the root word means of the king. So a register originally was you would give your property in tribute to the king, the state, as a peasant slave, and he would upkeep it and maintain it for everyone's own good in the kingdom, right? You might be able to possess it and use it, but you didn't have total ownership over it. So if you believe the state of and Daddy Trump are your king, rather than the men and women of the people being kings and queens, then yes, you believe it's proper process to register your private property as their property so they can keep you safe in it.
And you don't think that it's proper process to register?
No, I believe it's proper process and procedure for men and women of the people to do their affairs privately and then give notice. So you would record your property in order to keep record of it. And you would give notice to all of those agencies in the event of it being lost or stolen. They could retrieve it for you, which is their duty and service at best. But no, I will not register my property nor my body like birth registry so they can regulate my body and my property and everything that extends off of me for their public safety endeavors, for their corporate slavery. No, I'm not interested in that. I don't understand why anyone else would be.
So when a car is pulled over for not being registered and the driver could get potentially arrested, if the state can't arrest you over that, then what does that mean? Does the state not have power to arrest people for the laws in which you don't think are legitimate?
Again, you're conflating statute, policy, and code and contract and registration with law.
So statutes aren't laws?
Statute is given the force of law through the consent of the governed.
So
you need to go back and look at American jurisprudence. Remember we went over this when I asked you 2 years ago? You familiar with American jurisprudence, Blackstone's commentary, anything? You said, no, what's that? I said, that's the foundations of our law and lawful system. And you folks have never read it, don't study it, don't even know what it means and how it relates. It's embarrassing.
By you folks, you mean like attorneys, right?
Yes, I mean institutionalized, indoctrinated, gradually indoctrinated, institutionalized folks who are part of a corporate takeover fraud that they can't even imagine could exist, let alone see the etymologies and how it translates, let alone listen to me and have any kind of understanding of what the fuck I've broken down and put forth. It's beyond fascinating.
Okay, so, but you recognize, even you, with all of your supreme knowledge, that
it's not supreme knowledge. That's the thing. This is common sense. You folks are very inferior in your attention and comprehension. This isn't supreme.
So
it comes down from God, which is the supreme entity and knowledge, and you folks are ungodly, so you can't conceive of it. You have a blinders on. You have a veil. You're in and of the world.
So even
you're pretty much all the folks the Christed being in Scripture cast out.
Okay. If you were to be summoned to court,
you can't summon the man or woman to court. Summons is spelling. It's magic. It's dead language. Summoning is what you do with a spirit. I summon the spirit of Lauren de Laguna if it's still active and living. I summon the spirit of Lauren de Laguna. You can't summon a man or a woman. You're talking about personage. Person in Latin means a mask. You can summon a person to appear, which is a non-physical entity. It's corporate dead lingo. You don't understand dual jurisdiction, overworld and underworld. We're walking in two worlds. You can only see and conceive of one. You think anyone else that can see the other world is crazy. Turns out you're insane because you've been born into a madhouse and believed everything they've shown you and taught you. I'm not the crazy one here. It's you. You're the culted one.
Is it possible for someone to sue you?
Is it possible for someone to sue me? Yes, civilly,
When
you
they
could
sue
argue, because
you-
this is a civilized system.
when they sue
A man
you-
could come forward with a claim that a loss, injury, or harm was done. If it's a loss, injury, or harm, it becomes a criminal claim. If it's a claim that property was damaged, then it's a civil claim, in which case recompense can be reached. We can have remedy and relief.
So if someone were to sue you, you would have to go to court, right? You'd have to receive notice.
Well, no, actually, under the court of record rules, the defendant does not have to appear. The claimant has to appear.
Well, if the defendant,
okay, or the complainant in your system, because you live in a world of complainers,
so
not actual real men and women.
So if the defendant doesn't appear, though, then aren't they going to lose the case?
No, because they could have somebody present for them, not appear. I know you keep getting confused by what you've been indoctrinated with, but there's a special presentment, right? So the quote unquote defendant, another title and status you want everybody to just accept automatically, which many of us don't choose to be characterized as something outside of our beingness. We don't see the benefit in that. We don't see that as honorable and good faith when there's presumed innocence. I'm not on the defense. I'm not here to defend anything. I'm here to clarify the record and bear witness and testimony and walk the fuck off, because only God can judge me. That's why we swear on a Bible. I know you folks don't understand how that carries over. Your whole court system started in a church. It's all philosophy first and foremost. You want to look at the formality rather than the philosophy.
Okay, let me put it to you. Let's say you are accused of a crime such as murder, something where there is harm, loss, people have been harmed.
Correct.
Can you be forced to go to court?
Yes, at that point, you've essentially, I mean, we could argue there is an unspoken social contract, and there are levels.
So you could be summoned to court?
I wouldn't necessarily consider it being summoned.
Well, that is the
again. This is what you do with spirit.
It's not summon, it's summons. So
no, I think what you're talking about is subpoenaed.
No, that is not what I'm talking about.
Okay, why are we arguing over the specifics of the lingo rather than the common sense and how it applies?
Because the specifics of the lingo tends to be where you seem to argue the most. And other people who think along your ideology.
Well, Mrs. Laguna doesn't typically, right? If someone kills somebody, there's an investigation. If the investigation is found that the being has killed someone, they're usually detained and arrested, right? They're not summoned to court. Nobody's given a ticket for murder and summons to court. I don't know anything that happens like that.
Well, I mean, you could have a warrant out for your arrest, no? And then you can, right?
Yeah, they can be wanting to come get your body to stop you from continuing to harm other beings, which is lawful, you could argue on some level.
Okay, but you're saying...
Right, we usually don't get summons to court for murder. The summonsing happens for code breaking. It doesn't happen for criminal offenses. If you cause loss, injury, and harm, someone's coming to get you.
So you believe that if the crime isn't severe enough, then the state shouldn't have the right to force you to...
No, we have to go back to the etymology. It's not a crime. If there's no victim, there's no crime. That's the corpus delicti.
So you're saying, like, for instance, you can't get a speeding ticket, like that's not a crime, or reckless driving.
How is you deciding to take your property from point A to point B, whatever you reasonably, responsibly deem to be the speed to get your business done, is a crime? There's no victim.
So if someone
Yes,
is
I'm saying you're
convicted-
deeply entrenched in fascism where corporations run your life with policy, many times where there's no victim, and you think that's righteous and virtuous because the claim is for safety. You're duped out. I'm sorry for you. I don't know how else to put it. I don't mean to be mean.
No, it's fine. It's interesting. I'm just curious why it seems like the people who have this similar ideology that certain laws shouldn't exist or you
It's
shouldn't
not a
be
law.
allowed-
It's a code. You're doing it. You're in cognitive dissonance.
Okay, certain
You have rights under God. That's the law. Pursuit of happiness. That means I could take my property as fast or slow as I want it from point A to point B, unless I'm a direct threat to my fellow man.
Okay.
That's the law. Do unto others as you would want done unto you.
So
So I'm not interested in telling Mrs. Laguna how fast or slow she can take her bicycle, her car, or anything else down the damn road that we all have an opportunity to use, which is a right.
Okay.
Why would I? If you're responsible, and you're again, this is a big if, because I'm kind of doubting that at this time. If you're responsible and you're ethical and you have any kind of objective logic, morals, or ethics, you're probably not going to be going that fast anyway. Because again, while I'm someone who claims I understand under law, I could take my property as fast or slow as I want to, unless I'm a direct threat to someone, I tend to follow whatever the posted traffic advisements are because it tends to be fast enough for me. I don't really need to go any faster than that. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a rush. But again, there's original public law, and then there's codification of the original public law. All code is advisory. You can't make it compulsory. If you make it compulsory, it's no longer a free country.
Okay. So if, however, you do feel the need to speed, you're late for an event and you rush off somewhere and you are convicted with reckless driving, or what if, or here's another example, what if you're drinking and driving, however, you don't harm anyone, no one gets harmed in that process? Should
That used to be called drinking responsibly.
So you don't think the government should be allowed to
No, I don't think the government should be allowed to use color of law to deprive you of a right to travel, to stop you and survey you in your inner space to find out what's in your urine and bloodstream to determine if you're competent and capable to travel freely. No, I don't. I think that's so deep into fascism, it's scary that you think that's normal.
So, okay. All right.
If the person is swerving on the street and they're a direct threat, well, then, yeah, we should all be like, hey, what's that guy doing? He's like swerving. He's a direct threat. He almost hit my grandma. And then maybe we got to go call somebody in a costume to maybe officially do something civilly to have an effect on that situation. Because God forbid we just fucking do whatever we need to do ourselves, right? Someone else is going to handle it.
So you think it should be a civil situation if a drunk driver?
Yeah, I think people should take an active role in their community and their governance of self and other selves in the sense of at least, you know, hey, you okay? Seems you're swerving over there. Could you pull over? Can we talk? Kind of even take a read of the situation. No, we're so disconnected from our brothers and sisters at this point. We just presume everyone else is a fucking killer, a rapist, a sociopath, but not the guy in the uniform who's coming up to keep us safe, of course. No, not him. You see where I'm getting at here?
So, if I'm being honest, not really. I don't.
I know, it's very difficult. You should go watch Andy Griffith and Mayberry. It's an old show they used to have where they had two guys sitting around, right? And every once in a while, you'd have like Otis the drunk come in and out, you know? And every once in a while, some loss, injury, and harm would happen. Usually just some mistakes, some domestic garbage between people. We kind of show up. We talk about it. We work it out. We go back to the station. It's hardly needing weapons of war, tanks, K9s, rocket launchers and planes and drones and cameras on every street corner to keep everyone safe. It's what we used to call sheriffs, right? Who like only came when called when there was some kind of a loss, injury, or harm, direct threat to the public or disturbance of the peace. We're so far from that self-governance with a sheriff component. We're in full-on code enforcement. They're going to force you to follow the code for your own safety. If not, they're going to do harm to you. That's what you pay for.
Okay. So what do you think about I'm having a very difficult time because I'm trying to show you a bunch of.
I love you,
cases.
Lauren. I'm going to get you right at some point. I'm going to do what your daddy hasn't done yet. I'm going to teach you what America used to be all about before we sold it all out. All the inauthentic corporate males sold it all out for you women and children. I'm going to get you right at some point.
For us women and children? What are you?
Yeah. The inauthentic corporate males, like all of our fathers and grandfathers, for benefits and privileges and safety, sold out all of our rights and freedoms. And now you can't even consider a world where we have God-given rights and freedoms without fascism on every corner, keeping us safe with enforcement of code and policy, many times to the individual's own detriment.
Okay. Here's where it gets a little frustrating because I can show you literally hundreds of cases in which people who are saying the exact same things as you.
I really don't care, Lauren. Let me make this easy for you. I wouldn't give a fuck if they put me in jail right now or killed me. I'm done. I'm done with the fascism. I'm done being governed by statute, policy, and code and cowardly and authentic males. I'm done being told what to do by a bunch of fools in costumes. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. I don't cause any loss, injury, and harm. If anyone claims I do, we can settle it at court. From here on out, I don't care what you can show me about other unreconciled folks who I put no faith in because they have no salvation. They've not saved themselves, and they're not willing to save this land nor the law of the land. So I'm done with them. Go away from me. I never knew you, just like the Christed being said. You want your Babylon? You want your Barabbas? Have it. Work with it. Cooperate with it. Love it. Pay for it. I'm out. Simple.
So you could believe that the state is fascist, right? You believe.
Did you not just hear me? Where are we not? It's not about a belief. I'm telling you who and what I am, what I'm not, what I'm going to do from here on out. You can all do what you've all been doing all along. I'm not stopping you. Have I caused you or the rest of the fascists for safety any harm or loss? No, I'm just not willing to cuck. You guys can't stand it. It's your ego trip.
Okay.
It's not a matter
So
of
hopefully
belief,
at some point the state will come along and do harm to me, and then you can all justify your meaningless, purposeless existence.
So if the state is just perpetuating harm on everyone and the state is a fascist state, that doesn't mean that the rules of the fascist state don't exist and that the fascist.
I didn't say they don't exist. I said I'm not subject to it because I'm a man or you are a woman of the people originally. That is the original status and standing we maintain. All of these agents and actors are there to uphold our rights, protect, and serve. If they're harming the individual by taking their rights, not protecting and serving, we have illegitimacy and fascista. There's no longer any legitimacy to that order. Your Constitution says the people have a right to even bear arms and use them. I didn't say that. I'm not advocating that. Your Constitution says the people have a right to use the guns that the officials have tried to take to ignore the fascist orders that are illegitimate and potentially shoot it out with them. That's not what I'm saying, nor am I advocating that. That's what your founder said.
So
how does this work with private memberships and their jurisdictions, but like religious sectors, the Amish, the natives? Yeah, I'm asking in general, like how that all incorporates.
How what incorporates?
So what are their laws and jurisdictions in this situation? Isn't there some difference, especially within each other and their own, especially the natives?
No,
and they're especially with their land rights, which is something very important to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so natives do have particular land rights, and they do have particular rights when it comes over like children and taking children away, because the government has had a history of taking native children away from their parents. So there is, but that's because, and also when you have jurisdiction, a lot of that is based on like the land that you're on. So like the jurisdiction.
No, it's not. You keep making the only jurisdictional component geographical. You're talking about a protected class. That's where we get the idea of civil rights. Civil rights are to double down and protect protected classes who've not had their civil rights upheld. That's where we get to protected class versus privileged class. If you're born on the land as an indigenous person, you're not under their corporate contract and system. You become a protected class of being who's guaranteed certain rights. That's why Indians can't be told what drugs to do and not, while they push Pfizer and Moderna on everyone else. Give me a
that's
break.
actually not true. So, for instance, there is a Supreme Court case in which Native Americans petitioned to continue smoking peyote because it was part of their religious ritual to smoke peyote, and it was struck down by the United States Supreme Court.
Again, you presume that some bozo in a dress is the ultimate arbiter of what a man or woman has the right to do on the land based on their culture and religion. This is the antithesis of republicanism and Americana.
And you are not,
you folks are not, you and DeCastro and the rest of you, ma'am, 1 second. You and DeCastro and the rest of you are far from constitutionalists, lawyers, or scholars.
Wait,
you are beyond embarrassing.
You think that I am on the same side as Chili DeCastro?
You guys are all the same empty suits to me. You have no discernment. You have no judgment. You have no knowledge of self or etymology or the language. You have no knowledge of law, proper process and procedure. It's beyond embarrassing. The only thing you know is the world you've been born into and what you've seen over the course of your menial life.
So Chili DeCastro is much more aligned.
Is that a United States like order that no native tribe is allowed to use peyote for religious ceremonies?
Yeah, that you're not, just like you're not allowed to use heroin.
I need to see evidence of that.
So just
Sorry, because I actually have Native American friends, and that is not my understanding. Also, there's a whole thing on NGOs and their ability to
can't convince ungodly people.
That kind of spiritual influence, and this is happening all over.
You can't convince Lauren. Let's make this quick, okay? We're wasting each other's time. Lauren, do you believe
based out of the United States are doing like ayahuasca retreats, other ceremonies related to other components? Like ayahuasca is considered way worse than peyote in the big picture. So I definitely need to see evidence. So yeah, go ahead and put that.
Let's just make this easy and quick. Lauren, do you believe in a creator of the universe?
I do.
Do you believe the creator of the universe set down a law for us, either in us or around us?
Do you mind sharing my screen?
Could you just answer my questions, please? I'm answering all the questions here. I got questions for you. Do you believe in a creator of the universe?
Yeah.
Do you believe the creator of the universe set down a law inside of us or around us for us to live?
A law?
Yeah, like conscience. You familiar with conscience?
Well, I don't think a conscience and the law are the same.
Well, it's indwelling from God that shows you what's right and wrong and what to do and not do over the course of your maturing and life experience. Are you aware of that function? You're feeding back. For all the folks who have to be seen and nod and agree, you're feeding back. Help me out.
So do you mind sharing my screen?
It's literally like wrangling cats here. This is what my life has become.
I am providing
and cat wrangling
information about this.
Now I have snafu snaps in the back.
September 14th.
Holy Laguna! You went from YouTube lawyer to YouTube whore, and mindful the pedophile supporting fuck on Flow States, shitting on daddy all the time, but you want to come up here and act like you don't shit on daddy. Both
that doesn't help. You calling me daddy right now doesn't help. Help me out here.
I've never, ever, ever never talked shit.
Help me out here. Help me out, please.
Okay. So
it's a special class, and Lauren's the highlight of the day.
Yeah. So I'm trying to show you guys the proof that I have that the Supreme Court ruled on the smoking of peyote. But
I don't need the ruling from some tard in a dress that could be overturned at any time. This is just the opinion of one man. You think it's God because you're not.
So
again, that's not proof of anything. That's evidence. Help me out, please. It's not proof of anything. It's evidence that you're in a cult. You think some man in a dress and his belief that day is some rule and some law now that can't be overturned by another man in a dress pretending to be God.
So you
folks have lost your way. The system has got you.
So you believe, you believe that the Supreme Court laying down precedent is
it's for them. It's for them. They don't make law for men and women. They set code and governance for their own people to not breach the law and the rights. But they're failing at that because they're not using their conscience anymore. They're completely indoctrinated.
But didn't the founding fathers write this system in which there's checks and balances, including the Supreme Court?
The checks and balances have to be pursuant to original principles. If they're not, they're illegitimate. That's why the federal government says smoking weed and selling weed is illegal, but the states have a state right to override that in pursuance of constitutional values. You can't overwrite one or the other in pursuance of fascism. It becomes tyranny and treason and illegitimate.
So those were two separate things that you're talking about, like federal jurisdiction versus state jurisdiction versus.
You can't have the feds or the states or locals make a law, a code, as you put it, a law to take everybody's guns for safety. If they do, then other organizations have to come in and check them. If not, their ruling is illegitimate because they're attempting to take a right or a feeling.
And again, this is how other, religious sectors are running
their
organizations.
So actually, that's just not true. So we do have a separation in church and state. However, there are certain laws which are considered facially neutral. And so even though they do end up having consequences which impede on specific religious practices, they're not unconstitutional.
Could you address all the Supreme Court decisions here that you'll have some reason why it's not real? Could you address them all where it says we have a right to move down the street? We don't need license, registration, insurance. They can't take a right to travel. And could you just address any one of these, since apparently this is your God and your laws? This is what you all go by until you don't, when they overrule it.
I'll address each and every one of them individually, but you have to let me read the case.
Okay, go ahead. Take all the time you need.
Okay, so Thompson v. Smith. Let me look it up. Thompson v. Smith.
Notice it says American jurisprudence and constitutional law, something you and Chile de Castro apparently know nothing about and can't effectuate.
Okay, Chile de Castro and you are much closer in your beliefs in the law.
No. That's the thing. I'm miles apart, worlds apart from all of you. That's what you can't understand.
So
I'm worlds apart from all of you.
Chile de Castro believes that attorneys are corrupt and brainwashed. You believe,
but he hired one to defend him, to make him defended, so he couldn't fend for himself, right?
If that's how you see it, there are plenty
He's so close to me that he does nothing that I do and shows up to court like a clown, says fuck all pigs, then hires a bar attorney to defend him and get him 180 days. Yeah, he's just like me, obviously.
Epitome of double standard as fuck, basically.
Epitome of I'm nothing like any of these people because I'm actually living my information and have thousands of hours into the information in the study, while the rest of them just say shit and sell products and want to be seen and heard and make claims they can't substantiate.
Hey, Lauren, when slavery was legal, if you were teleported back to that time, would you support that because the state said so?
Absolutely, she would. Lauren De Laguna supports slavery because the state of said it was legal.
There are certain laws that I don't support, but I do recognize that they are in place. So I, for one, would be very pro legalized marijuana for every state.
You just deflected the question.
No,
marijuana was already lawful. It's in that little contract that all the agents swear to, that we're not a party to, but they say they're going to uphold it. And it says pursuit of happiness. So under pursuit of happiness is covered everything, but it wasn't explicit enough for tards.
You know what?
What's pursuit of happiness mean? Does that include fucking and sucking and smoking weed? Maybe.
I find funny. I haven't interrupted you guys once. But
I know. Now you're going to do the passive aggressive games where that matters. We're not here to be nice, kind, and polite. We're here to be true and accurate and real.
Well,
we're not at your legal court of false presentment and passive aggressive political games. We're here in my court. That's why we had this here.
Well, I mean, it's also on my channel, so.
I know it's on your channel. So folks who are like that can hang out over there. Those who aren't passive aggressive, just apparently all the way aggressive, because I know that's how I'm characterized, because I'm passionate for truth while you don't care. Right. I mean, so that's fine.
Do you not have people on your broken system?
Can you just address one issue at a time? Is it possible for you, the attorney, to focus on one issue or argument at a time without jumping around and mountain goating because you're deflecting? Are you going to go over the Supreme Court decisions or not?
Sure.
I thought that's where we were at.
We're going to go over the Supreme Court decision. Okay. From a judge, we shall consider this is not. Okay. Secondly, the courts cannot, by flat create public roads where none exist, whether the state council could avail themselves. So limiting illustration. I'm trying to get to the opinion here.
It's right there. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business is a common right, which he has under the right to enjoy life, liberty, to acquire and possess property, and pursue happiness and safety. Ooh, I love that extra part.
Okay,
It includes the right in doing so to use the ordinary and usual conveyances of the modern day, and under existing modes of travel includes the right to drive a horse-drawn carriage, wagon, or to operate an automobile thereon, which they tried to title and change into motor vehicle to get back jurisdiction.
Where are you getting that phraseology? Because when I'm in the case itself, because I looked up the case itself, and I'm not even seeing the word horse in the case, and so it doesn't appear like
it doesn't exist.
Is part of that case.
That's why I said maybe We Are Change is lying. Maybe this website is lying. Maybe it's all political propaganda. Maybe I'm caught up. Maybe I don't even care, because all of these case results here that are not in the case apparently and don't exist all make sense to me. So I don't even care if it's there or not. That's how wild and crazy of a guy I am. I don't even care if it's there or not. But if it's not there, well, then we got a bigger problem. We got to sue We Are Change for doing fraud and claiming their Supreme Court cases that aren't there. So let's go to the next one. Kenesha Mills, we got a ton of them. Please debunk all of them. Please expose them. I didn't write them.
I want to double check that could you go back to the last case? I just want to double check.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
because let's be clear, this is not where I get my law. I get my law from my conviction and my heart connected directly to God. I know that sounds crazy. I'm just correlating my firsthand experience and conviction with what's in these Supreme Court decisions, supposedly. But if they're not in there, I don't need them, because God's in my heart, and home is where the heart is. That's where my law is. And I got conscience, and I don't need other inauthentic corporate males and females to tell me how to fuck to live. I'm crazy like that, Lauren. I told you, I'm the one your mom and daddy warned you about.
Okay. So we have Thompson v. Smith, permits, streets, the rights of transport, use of ordinary vehicles, the right of citizen travel. Okay, there we go. Common right to enjoy life, liberty, and acquire, possess property, to pursue happiness and safety. It includes a right to do so in the ordinary and usual conveyance of the day. The right is not a mere privilege which the city may permit or prohibit at will. This doesn't, it seems like I've never seen, hold on. I want to see like the actual. What was that?
Whatever that is, just please relax, okay?
Okay.
It's gonna be okay. Lauren's like 2 minutes away from realizing that I'm right, and we're gonna be traveling off into the sunset freely together.
Common law to travel where the state has conveyed.
Lauren, will you travel with me freely?
Well, I will not drive without a license if that's what, or without registration if that's what you're asking.
Come on, you're like a big Trumper. You're a right winger. You're for rights and freedoms. Surely we can have the right to like smoke weed and ride around and make love under the stars and not be regulated and governed. Cut it out.
Just because
don't you really want this freedom with me?
So just because I believe certain laws should be certain ways. So I was trying to address this question earlier with the slavery thing. For instance, I think weed should be legal in Florida. It's currently not legal in Florida. So if I were to smoke weed in Florida and then I were to get arrested for it, I would understand that I don't really have a legal justification to prevent.
Right, but you have a lawful justification because the contract they all swore to uphold says you have a right to pursue happiness.
Will the lawful justification prevent me from going to jail or prevent?
Potentially, yes. We have a whole bunch of folks who had dismissals because they just invoke the common law and common ethic and common sense. And at some point they go, okay, we have a slave here who's not as much of a slave as we want him to be, because apparently they understand common core ethic rather than common core education, right? Which is what it's become, you know? So yeah, like there then comes a point where they have to make a decision. What jurisdiction are you in as far as subject matter, not geographical? What is the nature and cause of the charges? And what is the indication that the being has a God-given right to pursue their happiness rather than be forced to be kept safe, even if it causes the being harm and loss? It's antithetical to any kind of logic.
And can I add to that, Paul? Because why am I threatened with contempt any time I ask the questions that you just asked? Do I have the right to a fair and meaningful hearing? Do I have the right to be informed?
The biggest part of this game is they already searched you at the door. You're already submitted to their jurisdiction. You have a Fourth Amendment. Hello? Oh, wait, we don't have that either. You don't have to submit to unreasonable search and seizure. Reasonable does not mean we're scared, empty your pockets. It means reasonable, articulable suspicion that a crime may take place. And they don't have that. So when you submit your Fourth Amendment, quote unquote, at the door, and you get searched without reason or provocation, you've already told them what jurisdiction you're in. By the time you show up at that court, we don't recognize you as a man. You no longer have rights. You have legal rights or legal privilege or legal benefits. See?
I made him arrest me.
You can call me crazy, right? But this is what I've determined is what's going on here. This is more metaphysical than it is physical. This is more of a spiritual, unconscious idea than it is conscious formality and process and procedure. What's on paper. It's you have God-given rights. That's the law of this land. If you submit to anything else other than that, you're going to be pimped on. Don't expect to question them once you get through them bar doors.
So now let's present your case. Can we share my screen, please? Because it's what you wanted to. It's Thompson v. Smith. And first of all, it is you have to have caution citing, so it's no longer good law, which means it's over.
It's no longer good law.
Yeah.
Wait. This law's like milk and cheese. It has expiration. It has shelf life.
No.
This was good law, guys. This was good law like 2 years ago, but it expired. It went bad.
Yeah.
This
so
is
just
ridiculous, Lauren.
Like
You're in complete insanity.
So just
Don't you get it, Lauren?
Men and women sitting around determining things, and then you claim it's good law now because they made a determination. This is the essence of being culted.
So just like Roe v. Wade is no longer good law because it's been overruled, this also.
So basically, if we just get enough trannies in dresses to come along and overrule everything in their bizarre discernment, it's good law, even if it's bad law, right? That's how that works.
I'm looking up the very case you told me to look up, and now I'd like to share it with you in its actual format. And here it is. And
you can't handle the truth.
This is the case that you.
This is what Lauren would do. Like if she was competing with a woman and didn't have the answer, she'd go, "It was good pussy at one point. It's not now." And I go, "Well, that's subjective. Like you can't. Who's to say?" Forgive me, Lauren. I'm being a bit unprofessional. That's why we're holding court in the gorilla cage today. I can do whatever I want.
You asked me to look up a law.
No, Lauren, you had good pussy like years ago. It's gone bad. Okay. So I'm making the
overturned. I don't think you understand.
This is the logic you're using. It's completely subjective. What is good law and bad law? What is good pussy and bad pussy? Do your last three exes think that you have it or not?
Good law is law that hasn't been overruled. Bad law.
By who?
I'm overruling your last three exes that say you have good pussy. I haven't even had it yet. I'm saying it's bad. I'm overruling it. And I'm wearing a black dress too. You can't see the bottom of it, but I just did it. I overruled it.
So why don't you share the case that you wanted me to look at? And I could show you how there is a yellow triangle, which signifies caution.
Lauren,
Timmy, help me out here. My counsel, next friend, Timmy. You guys will like this in your system where other men and women represent you and speak for you. My next friend Timmy here.
Why are you scared?
I'm scared now. We're doing that. We're doing that.
You're sharing.
I just spent an hour with you going over who and what I am and how you make no sense. And I don't even care what you think about me. This is how I'm living. I'm convicted on it. It makes sense to me. And now I'm scared.
I went to the.
Oh my God, I'm scared, Timmy. Timmy, help me.
You really are scared. Otherwise, you would share the screen.
Timmy, I'm running.
Yeah. What happened to you? What happened?
Lauren, simple question. Let's go back to the slavery time. You're working at the court, and then your superior, who made a ruling, hands you a sword and says, okay, well, we made the law today that this slave has to be executed, and they hand you a sword. What do?
I wouldn't be the executioner.
Why not? You're being ordered to do so, or you go to jail.
Well, no one was ordered to be an executioner. That never happened. People willingly took
People get executed in a chair every day.
Yes, by people
today.
who took on the job to be an executioner.
I know, but I'm saying, let's say you work at the court and they told you it's law now that you have to do that. Do you do the execution or not?
It would never be a law to do my job. I would just quit my job.
Okay, so you have a conscience and you would override the unlawful order to execute somebody because you believe it shouldn't be a law.
No, I just wouldn't want to do
that
job. I wouldn't want to do that job.
So you would go to jail.
The point is you're not able to do the imagined simulation where you put yourself at a point in time like we are right now, where the good law of the time is blacks are property. Oh, the old law where we're all people and equal, that's bad law. The good law right now that we overruled is blacks are property. Do you run with it because someone said it's good law, even if it's immoral?
Do you not
Hello? It's called a moral compass. Do you possess one? Are you willing to use it? A moral compass that God gave you? Or do you just go into whatever they tell you and accept it and argue about it?
Can I answer? Will you let me finish the statement? Will you let me finish the sentence?
My name's Lauren, and I'm a pushover. I'm an indoctrinated pushover.
All right. So I am...
Yeah, follow me on YouTube.
Let her fucking answer.
You asked me to look up a case. I then went out of my way to open my Lexus and to look up a case. I have the case in front of us. Why don't we look at it? It's the case that you asked me to look at. Why don't we look at it?
Let's look at it, Lauren. Go ahead.
Okay, I am presenting my screen. You want to share it? Okay, great. All right. Well,
I think that's mine. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I was going to say. Okay, great.
There you go.
So you see that yellow triangle and it says caution. It says why? Because it's been overruled by this case right here. But anyway, this is Thompson v. Smith. Now let's read about what this case is about. So we have the chief of police had revoked a driver's license after he had twice been convicted for speeding pursuant to a city ordinance, which authorized a revocation based on the opinion of the chief of police. The driver contended that the language of the ordinance that allowed revocation based on the opinion of the chief of police was void as a delegation of legislative power to an administrative office. The permit could have been revoked for a felony conviction, violation of the prohibition of law, or 3 violations of traffic laws within any year. The court held that the ordinance, to the extent it granted the chief of police to revoke a permit, was void because it delegated power, essentially legislative, to an administrative officer.
Right, administrative officer of an administrative court.
Found that an injunction was an appropriate remedy because neither mandamus to compel restoration of the driver's license or waiting until the driver was arrested was as complete and adequate as an injunction. And then later, the court reversed that decision. So that decision was reversed. So in other words, the driver was found guilty. Okay?
Again, the presumption is that the ruling of another man is where law comes from.
So
if another man can rule, if another man can rule, if another man can rule,
do you want
to just try? You're trying. Who could have guessed you're going to sit here and try to find gotchas and holes in what you think is my argument?
It's not. This is the case you asked me to look up, and it doesn't say what you're
again. It doesn't even matter to me because it all hinges on one presupposition that other men and women in this realm can judge and rule better than I can, and they're not my gods. They're not my rulers. They're not my judges. So I don't submit my jurisdiction and my power and influence and understanding and moral compass from God to any of them. in favor of what I believe or against what I believe. It's very simple.
You want to use diction to split hairs between what you refer to as legal and lawful, but the courts still operate under the same opinion that I do. And so the people...
I'm not interested in the opinion that any of you operate under. I'm interested in the facts of the matter of philosophy, cause and effect, conscience, and what we call the foundations of law. I'm not interested in interpretations and opinions. This is a free country. It's going to remain that way as long as men like me are living on it. When we're all gone, you can have your way. It's already on its way. Trust me.
So what I'm trying to say is the ones with the power of the court system, the Supreme Court.
I'm not interested in the fascist and false power. I'm interested in the true power, which is God that governs all things, even if it's long game. I'm not interested in the kingdom of Shaitan having its way for a limited time. It's all over soon, Lauren. Have you noticed? Have you noticed where it's going? You guys are desperate to cling to your position that you know is being undone day by day. You have no more false power in the world. It's being shown. It's being undone. The rest of us are not listening. We won't put the face coverings on. We won't take the treatments. We're not putting the luciferase in our veins. We're done with you. Stay and do whatever you want. We're going our own way under God, and you can have that, whatever the bodily incarnation is, and do whatever you want to it, because it's a bag of bones anyway. I'll move on.
Yeah. Paul, I'm concerned because last time we actually had a private talk, we were able to do it without you screaming over me every time I tried to do
No,
it.
I talked over you many times. Why are you lying to make it seem like I'm different people in different places? I've interrupted you many times. You even said to me, please stop interrupting over and over and let me finish over and over again. Are you denying that happened?
I am.
Okay, because you'll lie to everyone's face right now.
I'm not lying. You are.
You're not lying? Why are you duping delighting, Lauren? Why are you duping delighting if you're not lying right now? Look me in the face and tell me you didn't stop me multiple times and say, stop interrupting me and talking over me. I have things to finish and say. And I said to you then, I don't care what you have to think and feel and say. You're coming from a legal indoctrinated perspective. That didn't happen, Lauren?
No, it didn't.
Why are you closing your eyes and looking down when you're answering? You think people can't read you? You're going to do horrible at court, Lauren. You're not a good liar.
Well, you're not supposed
You're not really good at anything, not even lying.
Okay.
You got to get better at it.
I
You can't look me in the face and you can't stop from blinking and duping delighting, trying to lie to your audience and everyone else here. It's pretty embarrassing.
Face at the camera. If I want to look at your face, I look this way. If I want to look at the camera, I look this way.
Right.
So
what if I was to tell you that I had that phone call recorded? Because I told you in the past I record all of my interactions.
Play it.
Would you be you would want me to play it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you don't believe I have it, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't believe I have it, right?
Lying.
Because you asked me in the beginning of the conversation, are you recording this conversation? And I said no. If you thought I had it, you'd change up your mode right now. But you don't believe I have it, so you can continue to lie. You're two different people in front of and behind the scenes, it seems.
So you're admitting to have lied at least one point. You either lied to me when you said you didn't record it, or you're lying now when you say that you did record it. So
no, you got to pay more attention when you're at court and here. I said, what would you say if I was to tell you that I had it recorded? I didn't say that I did, legal person. Oh, I did legal double speak like you folks do to get you to answer without claiming liability. I never said I recorded. I said, what would you say if I did say that I recorded it? I never said I did.
You didn't record it?
Well, I don't know. Do you believe I did or did I not? I want to know what you think.
I don't really care, but I do know.
You don't really care?
I do. I don't really care whether or not you recorded it, but I would like you to play it if you did.
Right.
To show that you're
well, so you could be shown to be the liar that you are. I'll do it next time. How about that?
Why not now?
Because there was because I just told you, you play legal double games where you ask me in the beginning of a conversation, are you recording this? And I go, no, Lauren, I'll give you freedom to speak and be your duplicitous self and not hold you accountable. So then you do all this and then turn around and go, I know you don't have it because you believe I'm more trustworthy and equitable than you are. Right. And you wouldn't record it, even though you said in the past you would, because then you'd be shown to be duplicitous and a liar.
So I don't think
isn't that right?
Is really going.
So Lauren, do it again. I want you to lie to me 3 times in a row because I believe karma comes in threes.
Okay,
Did you
you're handsome, you're handsome. That's 3
I'm
lies.
not
right
interested
a
in that
row.
nonsense. I'm not interested in that nonsense. The bottom line, this
You're
isn't a beauty
handsome,
contest.
you're
This is
smart, and I
about
like
who's
you.
virtuous and righteous. This
3
isn't a
lies
beauty
in a
contest.
row.
So great stuff, Lauren. You're a regular beauty pageant prize, right? You're like every Miss Universe who gets up there and doesn't know, where a geographical map where everything's located. You have no idea about history. You basically don't know who and what you are, but you think because you like dye your hair, which is balding. Put your head down again so I can see that balding hairline.
Where?
Yeah, let me see that receding hairline.
Do I? Where?
she's really upset about that.
Where is it?
That thinning hair.
Yeah, I'm actually not. I'm not upset about it.
So stay away from our physical presentment, right? That's not the facts here.
I mean, you
say it
told me
again.
not earlier.
Stop deflecting and obfuscating. I want you to lie 3 times in a row to everybody's face. Did I or did I not?
I just lied
3 to 4 times.
You're handsome. You're smart.
You're deflecting and obfuscating. I'm proving you're lying. You're doing it.
I just lied 3 times.
Did I or did I not 3 to 4 times in that conversation talk over you and cut you off to the point where you kept saying, "Stop it, let me finish. Stop it, let me finish. I want to go to the what did you put it? The precedent." You said, "I want to go to the legal determinations and precedent," and I just kept cutting you off and interrupting you with my understanding. You're denying any of that happened?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I need.
Play the video.
I love you godless folks who think you can lie and do whatever you want and have no consequence.
So
I love you. I also love you egotistical. I love the egotistical, prideful folks too who think that people can't read body language and eye movements and eye muscles and all the rest of it and can't make a determination who's telling the truth and believing what they're saying versus who's bullshitting. What do you think the courts and police all do all day, every day? Make discernments and judgments on who's bullshitting and who's not.
So you admit, though, that your philosophy doesn't prevent you from going to jail, correct?
Absolutely. I not only that, I go to jail, and unlike Chile de Castro and the rest, I don't whine and cry and act like a bitch and submit. I say, this is who and what I am. This is what I do. Show me my cell if this is where it's going. And I walk out, it seems, every time.
So it's more that you just think that the United States has lost its way at some point with the law.
No. I think the men and women like you have lost their way in themselves and in life. You don't know who and what you are. You don't know what God is. You don't know what trust and equity is. You don't know what good faith and honorability is. You're an empty husk, a golem of your former self and what you're meant to be under God. That's what I think.
Okay. So
yes, you're a golem. You're a power-hungry Smeagol creature running around the streets of Hollywood a few weeks ago with this lost look in your eye, desperate to be famous and seen and heard. And if they give you the stage and the light, you got nothing to present.
I was never.
This is the man and woman of our time, the underground man, the man, woman, man, child. This is what we have.
Alrighty. Well, this has been really fun, but I don't believe that we're getting anywhere productive considering you can't even look out.
There is no productivity here. It's a for effect hit piece. You make me Charles Manson. You say I'm in a cult. You say it's lore that you guys created.
You are in a cult.
I'm in a cult. You believe implicitly what other people in black uniforms say, and I'm in the cult.
The fact that
fascinating.
You get a corral.
I will do whatever the folks in black dresses say I should do because it's good law, not bad law. Paul's in a cult. Right. Okay. Whatever you want it to be, lady.
Okay. Well,
I think you and folks like you are pathetic, embarrassing, and insane. And you can say the same thing about me, but I get respect when I go to court. Even your own people don't respect you on your side. They don't respect you. They don't think you're honorable and good faith. They don't even think you're good at lying and bullshitting and extracting revenue. You're horrible at all of it.
You're not supposed to be good at lying and bullshitting. You're supposed
yes, you are. If you're legal people, that's all they do. Like, that's the cliche. There's 3 things at the bottom of the ocean: lawyers and car salesmen and bullshit doctors, right? That's something like how it goes. You could throw priests into the mix as well. You're all the same type of personality. You just want
Yeah, so I just left him because he was annoying me, and I was done with his shit. But essentially, all of the cases that I don't know, can you guys hear the fire fighters. That was really annoying. Okay. So we're not going to be talking about the Chile de Castro. I can't believe he thinks I'm similar to Chile de Castro. That's what cracked me up the hardest. It's like, no, Chile de Castro thinks what you think. He thinks exactly what you think, and that's why he's in the position he's in now. Even though I actually do feel like Chile was railroaded a little bit. But anywho, every single case that Paul cites when he's citing it, he refuses to actually cite the case itself, but rather cites opinions about the case and why the case should be changed or why somebody understood something from the case, but he doesn't actually cite the cases themselves. So when we're looking at this case, for instance, where was it? Where'd it go? Right here. Like, this case didn't say, he said that this case meant that you had the ability to just drive on, you have the constitutional right to just drive on all roads. That's not even remotely what this case is even sort of kind of about. So when they provide you with what they can call facts and they just aren't facts, it's hard to, I don't know. It's just nothing that they say is based in reality. And so one thing that he's saying is like, okay, something's lawful versus legal. So in his opinion, he has these like God-given lawful rights, and therefore he's just going to follow those. And whatever the state does, and it's not really a part of him. It doesn't affect him. So if they choose to lock him up for his beliefs, that be what it be, it's a fascist state. I'm not going to succumb to the state is essentially what he's saying. But that's not what he portrays. He goes back and forth. So he talks about doublespeak as if I do, but then he does that all the time. Because then also in the exact same stream, he was trying to present with me people in his audience who allegedly had cases dismissed. I don't know why their cases were dismissed. Maybe the prosecution didn't have enough evidence against them. That's the majority of the time why the case is dismissed, not because of some sovereign citizen argument. And then furthermore, I was going to show him, I think we should just watch, I'm going to play it anyway because I think it's funny. There are plenty of sovereign citizens who just get destroyed in court. So let's watch this really quick.
And extortion, fiduciary. Other than that, I challenge jurisdiction.
Okay.
Without prejudice, I, Mikael Eric Harris, beneficiary and sovereign principal, am here under fraud, threat, duress, coercion, and extortion, fiduciary. Ms. Sheila Johnson.
Fiduciary.
Harris has begun arguing in a style similar to sovereign citizens.
Okay, so I don't know. Let's see if I could just skip to here.
You accept the challenge of the jurisdiction.
You can challenge it. I'm not stopping you from challenging it.
Do you accept the challenge?
I don't know what you mean by accept the challenge.
Do you accept that this is a maritime admiralty law?
No.
You don't accept that?
This has nothing to do with admiralty, sir. This is simply.
It's just so funny because, like, that's how and there's so many sovereign citizens. There was one in particular where he talks about the person, the body, the whatever. I forget exactly what he said, but it was just so funny. And he goes to court, and I think it's this one. It was humorous, though. The judge didn't get mad. It was just, maybe we could watch this.
We're in Placerville, California.
Court will set bail on the amount of a not guilty plea on your behalf will show time is not waived. We'll set this matter for pre-preliminary hearing within the statutory period.
And I would like to see the gun. It said I had a gun. I've never had a gun.
As Edwards continues his rant about the David Hall, a sovereign citizen,
there we go,
who basically believes that certain laws don't apply to him.
Mr. Hall has declined the services of the public defender, Your Honor.
Hall is here for driving under the influence and driving with a suspended lieutenant.
Sir, I haven't said for the court how I'm appearing today, sir.
I'm not asking you yet. Just give me a moment, all right? I need to look at your record.
Turns out Hall is currently out on bond.
Okay. Okay, could you get Mr. Hall for me then, sir?
Oh, hold on. I skipped the best part.
Agent and settler for David Hall.
Not going to stop him from trying to make his
Here we
case.
go. Here we go.
Sir, today I'm appearing as the agent and settler for David Hall.
Okay. Okay, could you get Mr. Hall for me then, sir? Where is he?
I go by that name, sir. My name sounds exactly like I'm here to settle that matter today.
This is Paul's
Are
argument.
you and David Hall one and the same person?
I'm not a person, I'm an individual. David Hall is a person. I am a private individual.
Paul's legalese is unconventional.
Yeah, so it's Paul's same argument is that like, oh, but I'm the individual, not the entity. Bruh, this ain't gonna like. Why are you even making this distinction? Why are you even making this distinction and then trying to claim like it's an actual legal argument? Like it's something that will help you out in court. And it's something that he preaches like, well, this is how the law works. This is the law. This is the law. And then he justifies, well, law under God, not law in these fascist courts. Well, bruh, the only place where the law matters other than like obviously in the afterlife, obviously then the law of God very much matters. But the only place like legal law matters is in the flipping court. So if none of the courts believe that the entity is separate than the person, you're in a world of hurt when it comes time to defend yourself.
But the judge allows him to continue.
May I say something else for the record, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
I appear here today as the settler, agent, not the person, but the individual. And I don't think I should have you understand between a person and an individual.
And you're the individual, but you're not the person. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
I'm going to write that down.
Judge Hurley is unfazed by Paul's
agent, the individual, and maybe even the person, David Hall, has been charged with DUI. So today,
oh, this is a perfect example. DUI, the exact same thing Paul says that you shouldn't even be able to get charged for. So this is Paul's literal dream case. He would think with his understanding, this is how you would win. But clearly not.
the court's going to say you're the settler, the agent, the individual's bond, and even the person's bond today for $10,000 because the settler, the agent, the individual, and the person continues to drive without a driver's license.
Oh, and also driving without a driver's license. Like everything, Paul, like this is like the dream case for Paul. And this is, I feel bad because I genuinely believe Paul is kind of like a cult leader. He gets a bunch of people to believe his bullshit that this is how the law works. And then they go to court, and a perfect example is somebody who is on panel. Broken system, broken trust has lost every single time he was on panel with us, and he has lost every single time he has tried in court. So that's it for this stream. I hope you had a good time. Let's read through the super chats once more because we have to give Ripper Jack Media the love that he deserves. What about an atheist who believes that there's no God? Are they subject only to God's laws and then get to avoid everything else and don't have any laws against them? Great question, Jack. I don't flipping know. I would have asked if I could get a word in edgewise if they weren't talking about my vajayjay. Everybody, please give Lauren $2 via super chat for putting up with the words salad genius and crackhead. I really appreciate that. And then, wow, look at this is such a nice donation. Lauren, you're doing great. Please school him. He is deflecting bad. Lady D2, I think that you are rather new here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I appreciate you for coming and I appreciate you for such a nice super chat. And we have, again, one of my favorite people. He's really become a close buddy. I really appreciate him being here. He's such an interesting guy. He's part of Tiger King, guys. He was in Tiger King 2. He's the investigator for Tiger King, so he's really interesting. Look him up. Anyway, Lauren, look up Buddy McGirt case. That will shut Paul up once and for all. He didn't even look at his own case that he presented. He was like, why aren't you looking at this case? Why aren't you looking at this case? Why aren't you looking at this case? And then I go, okay, Thompson v. And I pull up the case. Oh, it's bad law. And then he laughs at me oh, bad law. What is bad law? That your opinion, I think you have bad coochie. So you don't understand what precedent is. If you don't understand the law, just say it, Paul. It's okay. Not everybody here is a lawyer. Not everybody here has to be a lawyer. All right. Okay. All righty. That was fun. Thank you all for being here. I very much appreciate you. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye, y'all.